Hello, welcome to episode 7 of the Henry George Daily Devotional. Can you believe I almost forgot about this today? Even though I was reading about Australia's slightly incremented land value tax in Victoria, maybe? I can't keep it all straight. Here we go. So we left off talking about how whatever law we come up with for wages and labor, it should, according to George, be true for a simple civilization as well as a modern civilization, which you may not agree with that, and that's wrong. All right, we continue. To illustrate, in the simplest state of which we can conceive, each man digs his own bait and catches his own fish. The advantages of the division of labor soon become apparent, and one digs bait while the others fish. Yet evidently the one who digs bait is in reality doing as much toward the catching of fish as any of those who actually take the fish. So when the advantages of canoes are discovered, and instead of all going a-fishing, one stays behind and makes and repairs canoes, the canoe maker is in reality devoting his labor to the taking of fish as much as the actual fisherman. And the fish which he eats at night when the fishermen come home are as truly the product of his labor as of theirs. And thus, when the division of labor is fairly inaugurated, and instead of each attempting to satisfy all of his wants by direct resort to nature, one fishes, another hunts, a third picks berries, a fourth gathers fruit, a fifth makes tools, a sixth builds huts, and a seventh prepares clothing, and an eighth makes video games. That was my own addition there, number 8. Each one is to the extent he changes the direct product of his own labor for the direct product of the labor of others, really applying his own labor to the production of the thing he uses, is in effect satisfying his particular desires by the exertion of his particular powers. That is to say, what he receives he in reality produces. If he digs roots and exchanges them for venison, he is in effect as truly the procurer of the venison as though he had gone in chase of the deer and left the huntsman to dig his own roots. The common expression, I made so and so, signifying I earned so and so, or I earned money with this which I purchased so and so, is, economically speaking, not metaphorically but literally true. Earning is making. Earning is making in a utopian Georgist society. Uh, I don't know how much we think that certain people earn in our society these days. Okay, now if we follow these principles, obvious enough in a simpler state of society, through the complexities of the state we call civilized, we shall see clearly that in every case in which labor is exchanged for commodities, production really precedes enjoyment, that wages are the earnings, that is to say, the makings of labor, not the advances of capital, and the laborer who receives his wages in money, coined or printed it may be, before his labor commenced, really receives in return for the addition his labor has made to the general stock of wealth, a draft upon that general stock, which he may utilize in any particular form of wealth that will best satisfy his desires, and that neither the money, which is but the draft, nor the particular form of wealth which he uses it to call for, represents advances of capital for his maintenance, but on the contrary represents the wealth or a portion of the labor or a portion of the wealth his labor has already added to the general stock. Just gonna Google what would you call this, draft in economics. What is a draft in finance? A bank draft is a payment that is like a check, but its amount is guaranteed by the issuing of a bank. Okay. Uh, so I kind of want to reread that sentence. It's a long one. that wages are the earnings, that is to say, the makings of labor, not the advances of capital, and that the laborer who receives his wages in money really coined or printed it may be before his labor commenced, really receives in return for the addition of his labor has made to the general stock of wealth, a draft upon that general stock, which he may utilize in any particular form of wealth that will best satisfy his desires. Yeah, he's getting like a check that is redeemable from the wealth he has created. It's not from some prior pool. And then George says, and that neither the money, which is but the draft, nor the particular form of wealth which he uses it to call for, represents advances of capital for his maintenance, but on the contrary, the wealth, or a portion of the wealth, his labor has already added to the general stock. I am generally convinced by this argument, but it's like a little bit weird in practice. Uh, because we have, if you want to hire a bunch of people to build a house, you're not uh, you're not like issuing like here's an IOU that says when we're able to trade this house for other commodities, you're gonna get a piece of this. Um, and like if a developer gave all of his laborers such pieces of paper, if those could then be traded for commodities at the end of a week of working on a house, and you pay all your laborers for their week of work, or at the end of a day, um, like because we live in this persistent society, it works out, so to speak. But it's just like this like if you just had 100 guys and nobody had any money, you could still just like, hey, let's build a house and we'll all share in its sale at the end. That works. That's how society started. It's just like technically I feel like George is actually wrong about like technically literally we have this sort of daisy chain of the way we pay workers to make a new thing, where it's like we're gonna pay you from stored up wealth, our capital, and we're just going to assume that this process can be repeated because we're assuming that the house we build is valuable, um, and that you're sort of, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I need someone to talk to or something. Post in the comments below. Let's continue. Oh, yeah, we have a few more minutes to get to the. I try to keep these around 10 minutes, but I usually go over. Keeping these principles in view, we see that the draftsman who shut up in some dingy office on the banks of the Thames is drawing the plans for a great marine engine is in reality devoting his labor to the production of bread and meat as truly as though he were garnering the grain in California or swinging a lariat on a La Plata pampa, that he is as truly making his own clothing as though he were shearing sheep in Australia or weaving cloth in Paisley, and just as effectually producing the claret he drinks at dinner as though he gathered the grapes on the banks of the Garonne. The miner, who 2,000 feet under the ground in the heart of the Comstock is digging out silver ore, is in effect, by virtue of 1,000 exchanges, harvesting crops in valleys 5,000 feet nearer the earth's center, chasing the whale through Arctic ice fields, plucking tobacco leaves in Virginia, picking coffee berries in Honduras, cutting sugar canes on the Hawaiian Islands, gathering cotton in Georgia, or weaving it in Manchester or Lowell, making quaint wooden toys for his children in the Hartz Mountains, or plucking amid the green and gold of Los Angeles orchards the oranges which, when his shift is relieved, he will take home to his sick wife. The wages which he receives on Saturday night at the mouth of the shaft What are they but the certificate to all the world that he has done these things, the primary exchange in the long series which transmutes his labor into the things he has really been laboring for? All right, and that will do it. See you next time.